Okay, hi, welcome, philosophy students, to the next video. Um, I am, of course, Dr. Black, your professor. This video is going to be talking a bit about the Shelley Kagan paper. Not directly talking about the paper, but talking about the same themes that the paper is talking about. I'll highlight some of Kagan's points uh, and sort of expand on them a little bit, but uh, I'm not going to walk you through the paper step by step or anything like that. Anyway, the paper is called Why Study Philosophy, and that's the theme of this video. Why study philosophy? Hopefully, in the next however long this takes, probably about half an hour, 20 minutes to half an hour, I can give you some good reasons to study philosophy, at least to study introduction to philosophy, if not a philosophy major. Um, some more reasons other than it's worth 3 hours of humanities credit, which is a reason. I'm not saying that's a bad reason. I'm just saying uh, there are other reasons. Um, so anyway, uh, if you have not watched the What is Philosophy video that comes before this, please do, because this video won't make as much sense if you haven't watched that. So, anyway. Alright, so philosophy. Philosophy, as discussed in the What is Philosophy video, is a rational attempt to understand the world we live in. Um, to understand, particularly to get answers to non empirical questions. And we might wonder what the use of that is. It's easy to see the use of things like engineering and medicine and maybe even mathematics or something like that. But it's because those are, well, especially engineering and medicine and things like that. Those are empirical fields. Those are fields that deal with the physical world around us, and thus they are useful for, uh, in so many words, getting shit done. You can get shit done with those fields. Philosophy, on the other hand, deals with questions like what is the purpose of life? Um, do we have free will? What is the nature of love and friendship? Um, am I a good person? Things like that. And those questions, while you may see them as important, the thing that often arises in people's minds is, okay, but what do I do with that? Cool, awesome. We're talking about what it means to be a good person. Uh, what do I do with that information? Um, I guess I could try to be a good person, but what about what is the point of life? What is the nature of the universe? Do I have free will? What do I do with those questions? Um, so it when people are confronted by the material that we study in philosophy, they often ask, "What is the point of all this?" I'm wrestling with these big questions that may not have definitive answers, and I don't know why I'm doing it. So, okay, so we're going to try and answer that. So, um, so why study philosophy? Why ask all these questions, um, even if you can't get definitive answers to them? Well, as Kagan points out, one place we can start is by thinking about why you're here in the first place. You're in college. You're trying to get an education. What is the point of that? What are you doing here? A lot of people look at education as job training, as something they're doing so they can get a better job. And I respect that. I get that. I'm not gonna poop on anybody's interest in bettering their financial situation, especially not with the world being the way it is right now. I get it. Um, but in the larger sense, that's not really the only reason you're here. It can't be. Um, Simply because the kinds of jobs that you're looking to get with a college education rather than just, let's say, a trade education, which is different. Uh, I'm not saying it's lesser or anything. I am saying it is different, though, than what you're doing in a college education. The kinds of jobs that you're trying to get are the kinds of jobs that require uh, that require. Sorry, my throat was a little dry there. Um, are the kinds of jobs that require a level of independent thought and ability to deal with concepts at an advanced level. Um, I usually have a lot of people in my classes that are business majors or um, people who are going to be studying some kind of medical field, often nursing, or people who are preparing for a professional career like being a doctor or a lawyer. Those aren't just traits. That's not just that's very different from learning how to fix an air conditioning or do welding or something like that. Uh, when you go into those kinds of professions, you are necessarily taking on the burden of thinking abstractly. Uh, Business education is not just about learning how to balance budgets and do personnel reports and things like that. It's about learning how the market works, why it works the way it does, about what kinds of business goals are worth pursuing, about how to be an ethical business person. I used to teach business ethics every semester. I don't do that anymore, but there are still people here who do teach business ethics, and it's a required course when you're in business, and I think that's a good thing um, because you can't just go into that without being equipped with the ability to, you can't just go into business without being equipped with the ability to think about these kinds of issues. If you are going to be a nurse or a doctor, you can't just prepare yourself by learning anatomy and how to portion out medicines and things like that. You have to think about what constitutes health, what constitutes a desirable healthcare outcome, um, how you should behave as a healthcare professional. These are abstract issues, not issues of just learning and memorizing some empirical facts. If you're going to be a lawyer, oh God, if you're going to be a lawyer, I mean, that's 90% glossy. You're going to have to engage with questions of justice and uh, engage with questions of how to conduct yourself as a lawyer and what the purpose and goal of the law should be. Uh, so when you are engaging, when you're going to get a college education, even if you are getting it so that you can prepare yourself for a job of some kind, what you're doing is you are necessarily also preparing your mind to work in ways that will make you suitable for that job. And, well, I'll get to that in a second. That will make you suitable for the kind of job you're going after. And that often means doing something more than just memorizing the procedures that are involved with this job in question. And that means dealing with the abstract. And dealing with the abstract means dealing with philosophy, necessarily. The other goal of higher education, beyond just getting you a better job than the one you had before, is to prepare you to be a well-educated, well-rounded, functioning member of society. The higher education tradition since the Enlightenment era has been a liberatory tradition. It has been grounded in the idea that learning history and literature and the arts, as well as sciences and the mathematics, is not just something that will prepare you to get shit done in the world, but that it will enrich your experience of life, enrich your experience of the world, and make you a better citizen. It will make you the kind of person you would want to have in your society. How does it go about doing that? Well, the humanities in general, and philosophy in specific, which serves as sort of the roots of all the humanities, is something that will help you think critically, that will help you develop yourself as a person. So, when we ask why do philosophy, in some ways the answer to that question, or at least one answer to that question, is tied up in the question of why even do college at all? Why do higher education at all? And the answer to that question, at least in part, is to develop yourself as a human being, to enrich your experience of the world and to make yourself into a better citizen, a more fit member of the community. So that's a start on answering our question of why study philosophy. Why study philosophy? Because it's an essential element, or at least it should be an essential element, of the liberal arts education that higher education is founded upon, that college education takes as its core mission statement. I think at least one philosophy class should be required of everyone who goes to college. People don't necessarily agree with me, but I think it's just one of those things that you should have to learn. So anyway, and Kagan talks about this in the early part of the article. Obviously, I'm presupposing here that you have read the article, or you will read it soon after listening to this lecture. So anyway, Kagan expands on that. The second argument we can advance in answering the question of why study philosophy is that it improves certain specific capabilities. I've been speaking very generally about, making you a more well-developed person and enriching your experience and stuff like that. Okay, fine. But how does it do that? Well, one way that philosophy can enrich your experience and help develop you as a person is by improving your faculties of critical thinking and argumentation. Uh, why do we think philosophy does that? Well, because that's at the core of philosophy. I believe I mentioned in the What Is Philosophy video, and I certainly will mention in the Elements of Argument video, uh, that the primary method of philosophy is the method of argumentation. How does philosophy work? Well, when you're dealing with abstract questions, like what is the nature of friendship, or what is the purpose of life, or things like that, there's no empirical recourse to answering that question. Science works with the empirical. If I want to know the answer to a scientific question, I can start by observing and measuring and quantifying. That's the nature of science. Now, I may have to do some hypothesizing and some theorizing about that data, but it starts with data. But in answering the question of what is the nature of friendship, that's not something that I can take measurements about. Do we have free will? What am I going to measure? What is the purpose of existence? You're not going to find it by using a microscope. I can tell you that. So there you go. In answering the kinds of questions that philosophy engages in, the only thing we can do is try to distinguish between relevant concepts and understand how those concepts fit together, and then advance an argument for a certain conclusion. In order to do any of those things, I have to really dig into my critical thinking abilities and really dig into my capability, my capacity to make distinctions between relevant ideas, and to understand what constitutes a good argument and a bad argument, and how to make good arguments, how to avoid bad arguments, and how to not be swayed by bad arguments, especially. Some of this gets dealt with in English classes some English classes, some comp classes in particular, composition, sorry, I should say composition. You know what I mean when I say comp classes. Some comp classes have a unit on rhetoric and argumentation. Now, those units mostly deal with rhetorical devices, which is to say ways of framing your argument, literary devices and techniques that you use to communicate an argument and try to make it effective in reaching your audience. But some of those units also touch on elements of critical thinking and good arguments versus bad arguments and so on. And I guess that's okay. I don't like it when the English department touches our stuff. But that's how I think of it. Stop touching my stuff. But even if a composition class does at least sort of briefly outline the nature of argumentation itself and talk about what constitutes good arguments and how to deal with concepts and make those kinds of fine distinctions in thinking about the big ideas that run the world. It's not the sort of thing that English professors have training in specifically, And it's also not the sort of thing that they do that they can devote enough time to because they've got other stuff to do. They have English stuff to do. Um, Whereas philosophy, that's what we do. That's our whole thing. So if you want to really get uh, that kind of training, and if you want to really delve into the nature of argument and conceptual analysis and how to distinguish between concepts and between good arguments and bad arguments and things like that, you have to come to philosophy because that's where we live. That's our thing. Um, so that's another element of answering why study philosophy. Why study philosophy? Well, one thing you can say about it is that uh, it is part of the essential liberal arts education, an essential part of the liberal arts education. Um, why is it an essential part of the liberal arts education? Well, because it helps develop your ability to think clearly and enriches your experience of the world. How does it develop those things? By improving your critical faculties, your critical thinking, improving your ability to understand and communicate concepts, and improving your ability to make and understand arguments. So you can see the chain there. Um, One way to think about this is to liken it to going to the gym. Now that's a pretty that may seem like a reach, especially coming from me. I haven't seen the inside of a gym in a long time. I used to. I used to go to the gym regularly. I used to be in fairly good shape when I was in grad school. I used to hit the gym 5 times a week, 3 days for cardio and 2 days for strength. Haven't done that in a long time. Uh, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I got old and lazy. It is what it is. I'm going to try and get back to it, I promise, because I'd like to live past 50. Spoiler alert, I am 50. Anyway, I'd like to see next year. Um, so I'm trying to do better. Um, yeah, I'll tell you, take my classes. I might be around for them. Anyway, sorry. That was my spouse, Morgan, who was telling me to stop talking about dying. Um, it upsets Morgan for some reason. Almost as if they are fond of me. Uh, Morgan's thoughts have been eloquently expressed on that subject. Anyway, where was I? Oh, right. Philosophy, you can think of it kind of like going to the gym. Um, when you go to the gym, you do a lot of stuff that frankly has no bearing, no direct relationship to what you do out there in the real world. When you get on an exercise cycle and pedal your little heart out for an hour while listening to Spotify, it's not because you necessarily want to be super good at bicycling. Um, I occasionally use an exercise cycle, or at least I used to, and I don't even own a bicycle. So why am I doing it? Well, I want to build up my cardiovascular endurance. I want to build up that aspect of myself, that faculty, so I can use it for other stuff, like not getting out of breath when I go up and down the stairs. So the thing I'm doing isn't directly related to the stuff I wind up doing outside of the gym. The thing I'm doing in the gym isn't directly related to the things I'm doing outside of the gym, but the things I'm doing in the gym help me develop myself in ways that make me better at the stuff I'm doing outside of the gym. When I go to the gym and I sit down on a little bench and I push a bar connected to some weights over my head, it's not because I have a burning need in my private life to sit on a little bench and push a bar connected to a bunch of weights. Oddly enough, that hardly ever comes up in my day-to-day life. But that kind of strength training can help me in other ways, like carrying the massive stacks of books that I own from one room to another. Honestly, I would say we have too many books, but I don't believe that's possible. Um, we have we have not quite enough books. I was going to say just the right amount of books, but frankly, that's a lie. We don't have enough books. We need more books all the time, forever. Um, when I get super old, and by the way, everyone who just thought, but 50 is super old, there, there's some things I want to say to you that I'm not allowed to. Anyway, um, when I get super old, Morgan and I are going to have a house that has a bunch of crazy additions to it, like the Winchester house. Look it up. And and all of them will just be to house our ever-growing collection of books. So anyway, um, so yeah, you can think of philosophy a lot like going to the gym. Why do I wrestle with questions like what's the nature of free will? What is the purpose of life? What is the nature of friendship? Um, Things like that. Why bother with those kinds of questions? Well, why bother with them? Because they're hard. Do it because it's hard, and trying to come to grips with hard questions will make you better at thinking about stuff that's hard. It just will. So that is a plausible answer to the question of why study philosophy. Um, and this also, as Kagan points out, this also serves to answer a question that comes up a lot in philosophy. Um, People who, as you start to get into it, people have noticed that a lot of the questions that philosophers deal with are questions that have been around since the very beginning of our discipline. Philosophy as a discipline, as we understand it anyway, goes all the way back to Socrates about 2,500 years ago, and Socrates and his student Plato and his student Aristotle were asking some of these same questions. What is the purpose of existence? What is the nature of friendship? What makes a person a good person? What is the best form of government? Things like that. And we're still wrestling with those questions. And sometimes people say, why should I study philosophy? You haven't managed to answer the questions that were around in the very beginning of philosophy. You're still talking about the same stuff 2,500 years later. Frankly, that makes it sound like you're not very good at this. But it's not that we're not good at it. We're awesome at it. I'm awesome at it. I may be the best ever. No, I'm kidding. Um, I'm adequate. Um, More or less. Um,
Nice.
Morgan was telling me to be nice to myself. Um, I'm alright. Um, it's not that we're bad at this. It's that those kinds of questions are so incredibly difficult. And the fact that philosophy just isn't the kind of discipline that gives you definitive answers where you can just declare it done. It's like, oh, we solved this. Boom, we're done. It can give you better or worse answers. So there are some answers that we think suck and some answers that are pretty good. But we'll never be done. talking about these questions. They're not the kind of questions that you ever will be done talking about. And it's the importance of dealing with those, of engaging with those questions. The importance of engaging with those questions isn't in trying to answer them definitively. It isn't to end the discussion. Some questions are like that. Where do you want to eat tonight? The purpose of engaging with that question is to decide where we're going to eat tonight and finish talking about it. If the discussion of that just went on and on with no end, that's not good. That's bad. But the purpose of engaging with philosophical questions is not to end the discussion. It is just to engage with the question, because there is something valuable about engaging with the question itself. And one of the valuable things about engaging with the question itself is to develop your capacity to engage with difficult questions. Okay, so that's another possible answer of why study philosophy. Because engaging with hard questions is good for you. It develops your abilities and makes you better at this. Makes you better at all kinds of stuff. Another possible answer, some may say that it may be observed that, well, hey, you say that it's valuable to engage with these questions because it helps you develop your capacities. But isn't that just kind of going back to the whole getting shit done thing? Like, how does that make philosophy any different than engineering or medicine or law? It makes it one step removed, like it's one step further back, but we're still talking about the instrumental value of philosophy. Oh, why study philosophy? Oh, because it makes me a better thinker. Oh, well, and if I'm a better thinker, I can do this and that and the other. That's good. I'm not saying that's bad. I think it's good to develop those capacities. But in my opinion, and in Kagan's, as pointed out in the paper, there's more to it than that. I think that engaging with the kinds of questions that philosophy engages with is inherently valuable, or as Kagan puts it, intrinsically valuable. Why study philosophy? Because you have to deal with questions like, what is the nature of life? What is the purpose of life? What does it mean to be a good person? You have to. Why do I have to? Well, because you're human, damn it. What is the purpose of life? What makes a person a good person? What does it mean to be a friend? What does it mean to be in love? If you haven't thought about these kinds of things, you're gonna. Spoiler alert. You're gonna. I mean, some of you are pretty young. And so maybe you haven't been, maybe you haven't woke up at 3 in the morning with an existential crisis yet. But it's coming. If you haven't, it's gonna happen. Because you're alive. Not because of any particular reason, but because you're human, and this is part of the human condition. I would be deeply troubled if I ever met someone who never thought about things like this. That would be worrying. I would be like, so what do you do? What is your life? You eat and turn food into poop and watch Netflix? Is that it? What a bleak life that sounds like. I mean, God, Ugh. What a horribly empty existence. Um, don't get me wrong. I like watching YouTube and chowing down on salt and vinegar potato chips as much as the next person. Um, I love junk food and I love cheesy TV shows. Um, but that can't be all there is to life. Why engage with the hard questions? One reason is to make you better at thinking so that you can fulfill the core objectives of a liberal arts education, which is why you're here. But a deeper, more fundamental reason is because you're a human being and there is value to the human experience in engaging with these questions, in wrestling with and thinking about the deep questions of life. It's part of what makes us human. It's part of what defines us. Why study philosophy? And if you're saying, oh, you're getting all philosophical on me, congratulations, you're in a philosophy class. Hell yes, I am. I don't know what you expected. Uh, this is what you signed up for. Live with it. Um, by the way, I'm hearing our cats playing or something in the background. There's little noises. I'm sure you can't hear it, but it's kind of distracting. It's funny, but it's distracting. Um, okay. Why study philosophy? You can study philosophy because it's 3 hours of humanities credit, and that's like the simplest, most circus level answer. I'm here to get a college education. This is something they tell me I have to do, so I'm doing it. Boom. Diploma. You can study philosophy because you believe in the core mission of a college education and you want to get this experience and develop yourself. Okay, cool. That's a slightly deeper reason for studying philosophy. Why study philosophy? Because it's essential to the human experience. Because if you're going to wrestle with big questions at some point in your life, you might as well learn how to do it well. Because philosophy is not something you can avoid. Doing philosophy is baked in. So why not learn to do it properly? I don't care which one is your motivation. I'd like it to be the last one. I'd like you to study philosophy because you're looking for a deep humanistic experience. Because you want to tap into the common human experience of thousands of years of conversation. And you want to join in that conversation. What is the purpose of life? When you ask that question, when you try to answer that question, you're not just trying to answer a question that you have. You're trying to answer a question that at some point everyone has. You're entering into a conversation with humanity at that point. You're pondering the same things that Plato pondered in classical Athens a couple of thousand years ago. And I don't know about you, but that's the kind of thing that gives me chills. Knowing that me and Plato and all these other thinkers throughout history that we're engaged in the same stuff, that that they must have been motivated by some of the same things that motivate me, that I'm having this common experience with them. It makes me acutely aware of the sweep and scope of human experience and human history. I'd like that to be your experience with Glossy. I'm going to do my damnedest to give you something to latch onto that will that will give you the opportunity to have that experience of philosophy. But if you're just here to sharpen your critical thinking skills and improve your ability to make and discern arguments, hey, that's cool. That's a great thing to want. That's going to be a skill that will serve you well in life, no matter what job you eventually take, no matter what path you follow. You're not going to go wrong by making yourself better at thinking. Um, I'm not going to go wrong by going to the gym and building up my endurance and my strength, uh, at least to reasonable levels. If I try to, if I try to go nuts with it, that's probably I could run into bad stuff there. But I'm not gonna make my life worse by getting healthier. And going to the gym. And similarly, you're not going to make your life worse by improving your ability to think well. Um, some people say ignorance is bliss, but ignorance is also what gets you hit by a truck when you don't look both ways before crossing the street. So, make it that way you will. Um, yeah, I'd like you to be into philosophy or the deep humanistic reasons. But if you're just here to go to the philosophical gym and build your thinking skills, awesome. That's a great thing to be doing with your time. And honestly, even if you're just here because you want the 3 hours of humanities credit so you can graduate, you do you, boo boo. Um, I can't say I understand it. If that's all you get out of this, look, I got a PhD in philosophy, so obviously I'm super into it. I recognize not everyone is. So, if all if all you get out of it is your 3 credit hours and your whatever grade you get and move on, that's cool. That's cool. Um, I hope I can at least make it moderately entertaining and interesting for you while you suffer through the rest of the semester. Um, Look, I won't lie. I've had classes like that. I took my biology class because they made me take my biology class. I got my 3 hours of credit. I passed with a C, and I was out the door. It was mildly interesting because I had a decent teacher, but I was done with it, and I was happy to be done with it. And if that's how you feel about philosophy, I'm not going to be mad at you. I'm not going to begrudge you. Um, I'm going to keep trying to recruit you. I'm going to keep trying to pull you in, but you can't stop me. Um, but I get it. It is what it is. Why study philosophy? I feel like we've talked about some pretty good answers here. We've covered some pretty good stuff. Again, you should be reading the papers that go along with these lectures. Kagan takes some time to delve into some of these points in a way that I haven't here. And similarly, I've said some stuff that Kagan doesn't say, so hopefully when you match the lecture with the paper, you get a more full picture of everything. Um, why study philosophy? I don't know. You have to find the answer to that yourself from what we've talked about. You gotta go inside to find that. Um, I can't tell you why you study philosophy. I can tell you why I do, and why a bunch of other people do, but I can't tell you why you do. Regardless of why you're here, though, you are here, and we've got a whole semester together, and let's try and make it a good one. So, uh, that's all I got for the video, and be well, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.